The view from countries where Trump's win really matters. News of Donald Trump's return to power in the White House has made global headlines. His so-called America First foreign policy could see a withdrawal of U.S. involvement in areas of conflict around the world. 5 BBC correspondents assess the effect it could have where they are. Trump seen as respite on Ukraine frontlines. Do not try to predict Trump's actions. No one knows how he is going to act. The words of one Ukrainian MP reflect the political challenge facing Kyiv. A Trump victory was widely feared here, over what it could mean for future U.S. support. The Republican once vowed to end the war in a single day, and has repeatedly criticized U.S. military aid for Ukraine. Now, it's anyone's guess what he could do. He could ask Putin to freeze this war, and he says okay, says a frontline soldier. It's the worst scenario because in a couple of years the Russians will advance again and might destroy us. The second scenario is if Putin refuses, he says. There is a chance Trump will react radically. That is a more promising scenario. Ukraine hopes that means the U.S. further upping its military support in the face of a likely Ukrainian defeat. For those close to the front lines who have had enough of Russian aggression, Trump is seen as a route to respite. Volodymyr Zelensky, Ukraine's president once labeled by Trump as the greatest salesman in history, sent an early message of congratulations. He talked up the political and economic opportunities a partnership could provide, and wants to be able to keep fighting in. Returned that there's also another ingredient. Trump won't just have to consider further military support for Ukraine, but also how or whether to respond to North Korea's growing involvement in Russia's invasion. No plans for Putin. Congratulations. You might expect the Kremlin to be cock-a-hoop at Trump winning back the White House. After all, out on the campaign trail, he had avoided criticizing Vladimir Putin. Kamala Harris meanwhile called the Russian president a murderous dictator. Trump had also questioned the scale of U.S. military assistance to Kyiv. Publicly, though, the Kremlin is going out of its way to give the impression that it's not excited by a Trump victory. I'm not aware of any plans for President Putin to congratulate Trump, said Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov. Don't forget that America is an unfriendly country, which is directly and indirectly involved in a war against our state. The dampening down of expectations are the result of how Trump's first term turned out. The Kremlin had high hopes that a Trump presidency would transform U.S.-Russian relations. It didn't. Nevertheless, at the political discussion club I'm attending in the mountains above Sochi, leading Russian political scientists seem to be looking forward to Trump the sequel. One pundit told me, he thinks that under Trump the U.S. will retreat from its global superpower status. Another suggested the U.S. election fitted the Kremlin's overall vision of the world, in which liberal globalism has depleted its efficiency. Europe's leaders see security trouble ahead when dozens of European leaders from the EU and beyond gather in Budapest on Thursday. Those on the right will be celebrating Donald Trump's election victory, but the rest will be asking themselves what happens next. Hungarian host and Trump ally Viktor Orbán was first onto Facebook with his delighted message. It's in the bag. But for many other EU leaders, Trump 2.0 could signal trouble ahead on security, trade and climate change. Within minutes of congratulating the Republican candidate, France's Emmanuel Macron said he had agreed with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz to work towards a more united, stronger, more sovereign Europe in this new context. German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock gave an idea of that context. Just back from Ukraine, she said Europeans now had to think big and make investments in our European security big. With the U.S. as a partner, her Polish and NATO counterpart Radoslaw Sikorski said he had been in touch with Trump's top team and agreed, Europe must urgently take greater responsibility for its security. The prospect of steep U.S. tariffs on EU imports weigh heavily too. EU Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen congratulated Trump but gave a timely reminder that millions of jobs and billions in trade relied on their transatlantic relationship. Israel clear-sighted about who Trump is. Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel's prime minister, was one of the first to congratulate Trump and has previously called him Israel's best-ever friend in the White House. Trump previously won favor here by scrapping a U.S. nuclear deal with Iran that Israel opposed. He also upended decades of U.S. policy by recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Trump's first term in office was exemplary, as far as Israel is concerned, says Michael Oren, a former Israeli ambassador to the U.S. But he adds, we have to be very clear-sighted about who Donald Trump is and what he stands for. The former president sees wars as expensive, Mr. Oren notes, and Trump has urged Israel to finish the war in Gaza quickly. If Donald Trump comes into office in January and says, "Okay, you have a week to finish this war," Netanyahu is going to have to respect that. In Gaza, where the Israeli military has been battling Palestinian group Hamas, desperation has narrowed the focus of some residents. Trump has some strong promises, says Ahmed, whose wife and son were both killed when their house was destroyed. We hope he can help and bring peace. Another displaced resident, Mamdouh, said he didn't care who won the U.S. election. He just wanted someone to help.